A little over a year ago, the Lockman Foundation, publisher of the New American Standard Bible, reached out to me and asked for my input on some ideas that they had been working on with 2K Denmark, one of the world's leading Bible designers and typesetters, about the Amplified Bible, a translation that many of you have asked me to review over the years. And as soon as I saw what they were working on, I thought, oh, people are gonna love this. And now, over a year later, I'm finally able to show you what they were working on. Not one, but two new editions of the Amplified Bible. The Amplified Two-Tone and the Amplified Reader's Two-Tone. The Amplified Bible is a formal equivalence translation that uses a unique system of amplifications to explain the text and help you understand it even better. They place synonyms and definitions directly within the text through a system of parentheses, brackets, gray text, footnotes, and references. I'm going to show you how all of this works in just a moment, and they have made some significant tweaks to it with these new Bibles, but I think it's really cool that you're getting an essentially literal translation of the Bible with some helps along the way that help you make better sense of it. This Bible first came out in 1958. Well, the New Testament came out in 1958. The Old Testament was released in two parts in the 1960s, and then in 1965, they combined it together for the complete Amplified Bible. And that is really predating the functional equivalence dynamic translations that we know and love today, like the NIV and the NLT. So this was kind of the predecessor to some of those ideas for translation about not being so formal, so literal, but making it a little bit readable. So this is kind of the best of both worlds in one translation. I honestly don't know why the Amplified Bible is not more popular than it is. It received an update in the 1980s and most recently in 2015, and Lockman has done a great job publishing nice editions of it, but not as many as other translations out there. It's not as popular as their other translation, the New American Standard Bible, but I think these new editions might help it gain some new readers. Before I show you how the amplifications work in these new Bibles, let's get an overview of each of them with their specs. You have the Two-Tone edition and the Reader's Two-Tone edition. This one is a double column. The Reader's over here signifies a single column, but there are a few other key differences between the two that I will let you know about. And they're called two-tones because they use a system of two-tone colored text, gray text, for those amplifications. So if you're familiar, I know I said I was going to talk about the amplifications in a minute, but if you've used the Amplified Bible in the past, you'll remember that some of the amplifications were found in brackets. I personally found that a little bit distracting as I was reading the text. It broke it up a little bit. In these Bibles, they have replaced how they used to use brackets with gray text that is in a slightly different typeface, and I think it makes it so much more readable. So I'll show you that in a moment. There are still, by the way, brackets in these Bibles, but they're a different purpose. Again, I'm going to explain all of that. Okay, so the Reader's, this is the Two-Tone. The Two-Tone is available in several different options. There's a hardcover, this green cloth over board. There are several different colors in what they call leather text, which is a really nice synthetic leather Bible that's soft and floppy. It kind of looks and feels like leather, but it's not real leather. And then they have a genuine leather option. This feels like a large print thin line Bible. It's about 6.1 inches wide by 9.1 inches tall, and it's 1.25 inches thick. It's a really nice Bible. When you open it up, it has a lovely 10-point typeface. It uses the Bible serif for the main text of Scripture and other Bible font family typefaces for the rest of it. This is a typeface designed by my friends at 2K Denmark, who also did the design of these Bibles and their layouts in general. And they did a really cool thing here where they used Bible serif for the main text of Scripture. They used Bible slab for the amplifications in the text, those ones I was telling you about earlier that used to be bracketed that are now gray text. And they used Bible sans for footnotes, definitions, and things like that that are going to be in parentheses or out in the columns of the text. I'll show you how that works. I know I keep saying that, but it's really interesting how they've done the typefaces. But a very readable 10-point typeface. It is line matched on 32 GSM paper that looks really, really great. It has a full set of translation footnotes. It has end of verse references. And this one right here in the back of the Bible, it has book introductions and Bible maps. And I think I forgot to say this, but the double column edition is verse by verse. That's another one of the ways that it differs from the single column edition. So the single column edition is also a 10-point typeface. It's also 32 GSM paper. It's also going to have the full set of footnotes. It's got the end of verse cross references, although it does it a little bit differently. But instead of having those book instructions at the back, it takes those out. It's a little bit thicker. When you have a single column design, it's going to be a little bit of a bigger Bible. You can't fit as many words on a page, so it's a little bit thicker. It's 1.5 inches thick instead of 1.25 inches thick. It's also a paragraph format Bible, so it's not verse by verse. So big differences are the Reader's Edition is a little bit thicker. It is also not going to be verse by, so it's verse by verse over here. It's paragraph format right there, and it does not have book introductions in the back. And then the way it does the amplifications is different as well. Now, before I show you those, this one right here, also hardcover, synthetic leather, which they call leather text, and genuine leather. Lots of different color options under all of the, well, I think in the hardcover, they only have these green ones, which I really like. In the other two, they have multiple options. So I'm gonna put links in the video description so you can go to Lockman's website and see all of the different colorways. This is, I think, as far as Bible releases go for Lockman Foundation, at least in the last 6 or 7 years that I have been reviewing Bibles, this is the most options they have given us in terms of bindings and colorways in all of the other Bibles that they have produced. So I've got 3 different ones in each, but there are several more. So I'll put those links in the video description so you can check those out and see if there's one that you would really like to have. Okay, let's talk about how the amplifications work in these new Bibles. The folks at the Lockman Foundation sent me a 40-page document created by 2K Denmark to explain how all of this works, the different layouts, the typefaces, the colors, and how all of it fits together for both of these Bibles. And I have been studying that document for the last few days. It's absolutely fascinating. What it shows us is just how much time and energy and thought has gone into designing these Bibles to make them the most readable and useful versions of the Amplified Bible ever produced. I'm saying that right here, right now. These are the best Amplified Bibles ever produced. Okay, so there's some pages in here at the beginning of the Bible that I'm referring to where it talks about the characteristics of the Amplified Bible and gives you some examples. And I think this is the best way to show you how all of this works. So the main text of Scripture is that 10-point Bible serif typeface. When you see parentheses, parentheses are one of the ways that they show you amplification. So there's 2 different versions of parentheses. When you see parentheses in black text, that's the main text of Scripture. Often when we're writing, we have these parenthetical statements or parenthetical phrases. So if it's in black text, that's part of the translation. But if the parentheses are in gray text, that is the amplification that is supplying the definition in context of the preceding name, place, or word. So when you're reading the Amplified Bible aloud, you don't read that part aloud. It's basically just explaining it, giving you a definition of what just came before it. But you're not supposed to read the gray parentheses out loud. Does that make sense? But when you get gray text that is not in parentheses, that's going to be in a slightly different typeface. It's called Bible slab. That is what's replacing the bracketed text from the previous editions. And this is giving you justified words or phrases or brief commentary not fully expressed in the preceding English text. Those words are designed to be read aloud when you're reading the translation. So if the text is in parentheses and it's black, it's part of the translation, you read it. If it's gray, you don't read it. If it's gray but it's not in parentheses, you do read it. I understand that this is a little bit confusing, and here's what I can tell you. The more you use this, the more it starts to click. You spend a couple days reading this Bible, and you really start to find your rhythm. In the 2-column version, the end of verse cross-references literally happen in line with the text. You see a couple of examples that here on the first page of Genesis. You also know that there's a ton of translation footnotes, and so you have those footnote callers there. But we see a few different places where you have the gray text in parentheses, the gray text not in parentheses, and then the brackets. I mentioned earlier that brackets are still in this Bible. So the brackets are used in this Bible for those places where you hear the King James only people saying they've taken those verses out of the Bible. So what they've done is they're basing this translation off of the critical text, not the Textus Receptus. But text in brackets is footnoted, and that indicates when a verse was not found in the critical text manuscript. So what's happening is they're not taking it out, they're leaving it in, but they're putting it in brackets, and then they're giving you a footnote to explain that. So whenever you see brackets, it's those verses that are missing in translations like the NIV, the ESV, the NASB. They've put it in here, but they've placed it in brackets. So you're getting gray text in parentheses, that's definitions, you don't read it aloud. You're getting gray text not in parentheses, that's clarifying things, giving you a little commentary. It can be read aloud. You're getting end of verse cross references, you're getting footnotes. It's a really great way to kind of go through the Bible. And again, once you start to see how all of this works, it really flows well. And in my opinion, because the brackets are not there in the midst of the text so much, it's just a much more pleasant reading experience. But you see how it looks here in the 2-column edition. It looks a little bit different in the single column edition, and I like this even better. So we open up this one, we go to those same pages that give us an example of how this Bible works. And what you're going to immediately notice is that this system has been tweaked in the single column Bible to kind of take advantage of the benefits. So you're still getting all of those things, but here, instead of having the grayed out text in parentheses that you don't read aloud, instead of having it in line with the text, they put an asterisk. You can see that right there in the beginning, God, asterisk. And then you go over to the margin. They put that in the margin. So the parenthetical phrase, the definition, Elohim is what they're telling us. That's out there. Also, see the second line of text, heavens and the earth, there's a little triangle. It's pointing you to the end of verse cross-reference out in the margin. So basically for the single column edition, I think this is brilliant. For the single column edition, they've taken the amplifications that are not typically read aloud when you're reading the Bible, and they've moved them over to the margins. The gray text that is not in parentheses, that is meant to be read aloud, is still there in the paragraph format of the text. But the parentheses in gray, the end of verse cross-references, everything else is pushed out to the outside. Again, in my mind, that's brilliant because it makes it even more readable. The text is not broken up at all by the parentheses, just by those little asterisks and those triangles. I think it's a much smoother reading experience. And of course, I like single column Bibles. It's a little bit bigger and thicker, but I think this one really makes this a unique way to read and study the Bible because you get the translation of the Amplified Bible, again, a literal translation of the Bible, a formal equivalence translation. You get some of those amplifications that are designed to be read with the translation right there in the text that are going to clarify it for you. But then you get some definitions and some cross-references and some other things moved out into the margins so you can refer to them as you go, but they're not breaking up the text. I absolutely love how the single column edition turned out. And honestly, I like the 2-column edition, but I think that the single column edition is really special. So there you have it, 2 great new Amplified Bibles from the Lockman Foundation, the two-tone and the Reader's two-tone. I understand that amplification system can be a little bit overwhelming, but I really do think it's a cool way to have a formal equivalence, literal translation of the Bible with some additional helps in there to help you make more sense of what you're reading. I think it's really useful. As I said, I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of this one. I'm a really big fan of the single column, and I would love to hear from you. Which one of these do you like best and why? As I'm releasing this video, these Bibles have been out in the wild for a couple of weeks, so if you already have a copy of one of these, please leave us a comment and let us know what you think. If you love using it, or if you found out a pro tip for using this Bible that's really helped, please share that with us in the comments. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got links in the video description to where you can go and check out all of the different options, the colorways, the leather bindings, everything like that. It's all available on the Lockman Foundation's website. I'm also going to check and see when I first started reviewing this or started working on this review, I did not see anything on Amazon, but I'll check again before I post the video. And if these are available now on Amazon, I'll put those links down there as well. So share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you love the Amplified Bible, I encourage you to check this out. If you don't love the Amplified Bible, but you're curious, these are really cool Bibles. Congratulations to the Lockman Foundation and 2K Denmark for creating something really cool. And thank you to them for sharing these with me so that I could share them with you. If you haven't already, click that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for another great video coming very soon. I'll see you next time.